Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Today's video is a little update on my scrappy making. So back in, I think maybe July, but definitely in the summertime, I decided to set myself a little challenge of trying to work through some of the leftovers in my yarn basket. So I do a lot of knitting with 4-ply yarn, so a lot of my leftovers tend to be leftover sock yarns or leftover 4-ply yarn, and I was going through looking for a project to make while I was travelling. I decided to knit up a pair of scrappy socks, and that birthed the idea of our scrappy make along. So I invited the rest of our lovely community here on YouTube and on Instagram to join in and use up some of their leftovers if they wanted to. I'm so pleased at the amount of engagement that there has been with this make along, and there's been some beautiful projects that have been made from people's leftovers baskets. It's been really fun for me. I have definitely met my challenge goal. My challenge goal was to use at least 700 grams worth of leftovers. I'd originally set aside a lot of my leftovers that were 20 grams or less. I've still got a few of those left, and obviously I'm generating more as I finish other projects, but yeah, it's really nice to have worked through some of these. As I say, there's been lots of involvement from our wonderful community, so I have decided that I'm going to make this a year-long make-along next year, because I'm always generating leftovers. I'm always knitting, I'm always crocheting, always spinning, so yeah, inevitably there'll be more leftovers to come. This round of the scrap make along will finish on the 31st of December, and then we'll start anew in January. We'll go through the entire year next year, I think, and see how many beautiful projects we can make from our leftover yarns. So there'll be a new hashtag. Our current hashtag is YarnNYScrapMal, and then from January the 1st we'll move to YarnNYScrapMal25 or something like that. I'll chat more about that when the time comes. For today's video, I've got a few finished projects that I have been making in the last couple of months. This is mostly stuff that I've been working on in sort of September and October. Also at the end, I will do a little slideshow of some of the projects that our community members have finished. I did a video like this a couple of months ago, so I'll try and link that either in the cards above or down below. So this is almost like a part 2, part 2 update of our scrap make along. I've got 3 pairs of finished socks to share with you, a cardigan and my current scrap sock work in progress. That's a lot of words. Without further ado, let's get into what I've been making. The first pair of finished socks that I'm going to share with you are these. I've only put one sock on the sock blocker, but I assure you I do have a pair. So these were just a pair of really simple summer short socks that I cast on using a very precious leftover. So the yellow and grey stripes that you can see were from a lovely indie dyer here in the UK who's sadly no longer dyeing, but it's YarnNYarns, and I think I've mentioned on the channel, if you've been following for any length of time, that Helen used to be one of my favourite dyers, but unfortunately she does not appear to be dyeing at the moment. As far as I'm aware. I made myself a full-length pair of socks out of this, and I think this was her Batman colourway, and I had been hoarding this leftover and I decided to make myself another pair of socks, so I made these shorties for the summer. I paired with some opal solid yarn just in this black, and I did the helical striping method to knit myself a pair of summer socks, and these have been worn quite a few times already. For a change, yes, I am flashing you my worn socks again, but for a change these are clean. Again, if you've been here for a while, you'll know that I have been guilty of flashing my dirty socks at you in the past. First pair of finished socks. I don't really follow a pattern for these. I just cast on. I knit about 10 rounds and I don't do any ribbing. I just let them roll over at the top. There is a pattern, I think it's called the Rose City Rollers, if you need a pattern to help you along the way that you could use as a guide for something similar. So yeah, I did about 10 rows, then I put in my heel flap and gusset heel and carried on down the foot. And also, if you're interested in finding out about the helical striping method, there are a couple of videos up here on YouTube. So yeah, those are the helical socks that I knit back in the summer. I think these were actually just about finished when I recorded the last update video on our scrappy make along, and I just forgot to show them to you. So they've been finished for quite some time and they've been worn quite a lot. The second pair of finished socks that I've got to share with you were a work in progress in the last scrap make along video that I did. I had just started this amazing pattern, which is a free pattern on Ravelry by General Hog Buffer, and it's called the Stripe Tees sock. Obviously finished those. I've got one sock on the sock blocker here to share with you, and then I've got another just hanging out here. Yeah, this was a really fun pattern. Can you see here? This was the very last bit of that Batman colourway that went into these helical stripes. I really enjoyed making these. They're completely different, obviously sisters not twins, because I just used random scraps to make my stripes, and I paired them with a drops yarn to kind of make them look a little bit more like a pair. So every other stripe I knit was in the blue yarn, just to try and make them a little bit more cohesive. The construction for these is really fun. A lot of people asked me when I posted pictures of these on Instagram whether these were knit in the intarsia style, and they're not. They are knit in small stripes. You are purling stitches because you're knitting these little stripes backwards and forwards and joining as you go along. So it's a really fun pattern and it's free over on Ravelry. So if you want to have a try at these yourself, then I would say go for it. It's just a really fun way of making a sock. The original pattern is designed with self-striping yarn in mind, so which, as you can imagine, will lead to some really fun effects. So if I show you that one stripe again, if you can imagine lots of these strips in the same colour where the striping perhaps doesn't quite match up, you just get some really fun effects. And I think I will likely make a pair of socks from this pattern again for myself. These ones are going in my basket for donation. I can definitely see myself making another pair of Stripe Tees socks. My most recently finished pair of scrappy socks are the dispersion socks, and the pattern for these was very kindly gifted to me by one of our lovely community members, Angela. So thanks, Angela, for sending me this really fun pattern. Again, I've got one sock on the blocker, but I've also got another one just hanging out so you can see the pattern from a slightly different angle, although these have been folded over, so it's a little bit tricky to show you. Let's just show you the back of the leg there. So this was a really addictive little pattern. It's obviously a colourwork sock, and it's a 4-row pattern repeat, so it's one of those really addictive knits where you just want to knit one more, repeat, knit one more, repeat. And I actually finished these quite a few weeks ago, and I've been holding off. These are going to be a gift to my lovely friend Jeanette. I was knitting these while I was away with a lovely group of my knitty friends, and Jeanette asked if I was knitting these socks for her, and I said of course I was. So I'm going to send these off to Jeanette now I've shown them to you. I've been hanging on to share them with you here on a video so I can get these in the post now. I knit these from some West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. The purple, the background colour, is West Yorkshire Spinners, and then just a whole bunch of scraps from my yarn stash. So yeah, to be gifting those to a dear friend. Again, I can see myself knitting more pairs in this pattern in the future because it really was a fun little knit. Finally, a project that I've shown on a couple of videos already, so I'm not going to spend a whole amount of time on this, but it is my garter marla cardigan. So I started this as one of our 12 cast-ons back in January this year, I think, December, January time. If you're new to the channel and you're not familiar with the 12 cast-ons, it's a make-along that I host every year, and we're just about to come into 12 cast on season, so I cast on 12 new projects between Christmas Eve and the end of January to set myself up for the coming weeks, months, years making. And over the last few years, lots of our Yarn and Yarns community have joined in. Because with the scrap make along works in progress were more than welcome, I decided that I could definitely include my garter marla as part of my scrappy make along as well, because I knit this entirely from my scraps and leftovers basket. So yeah, This is a pattern by Stephen West, and I use lots of autumnal scraps, so reds, yellows, oranges, a little bit of green, a few bits of purple sort of thrown in just to add a few pops of colour. I recently finished that and it definitely counts for this make along, but there's a whole video dedicated to this, and I also chatted about it in my most recent making wrap up as well, so I'm not going to dwell on that one too much for this video. Those are all my finished objects. I've got one work in progress on the go at the moment, and it's of course another pair of socks. Never not knitting socks. And I decided I had a lot of fun with those summer short socks using the helical striping method, so I decided to knit another pair of helical striping socks. So these are my socks in progress. I picked out a 50-gram skein that I had in my stash in this burgundy colour. I think it was a Regia yarn, and in my bag I've popped in lots of leftovers and scraps that have got blues, greys, purples in them. I have been separating out my little balls into two halves so I can make a pair of socks, of course. But I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but my socks definitely won't be matching because some of these are self-striping or self-patterning yarns. So this one, for instance, this first over that I've got, on this sock there's a lot of grey in this bit, but in the second half of the yarn there's a lot more sort of darker blue. So yeah, they're going to be very scrappy looking. This should be a fun pair of socks. I'm just enjoying throwing in whatever yarns come out of the bag, and I'm about ready, I think, to put in a heel for this first sock. This is not particularly a priority project. I would like to get them finished by the end of the year, but I haven't been knitting on these very much since I cast them on. I've got other things that I'm really trying to get off the needles, some bigger projects that have been taking my time and attention. So yeah, these are just humming along in the background whenever I need a little bit of easy knitting, but they have been neglected for a week or so just because I need to put in a heel before I can progress them any further, really. So I need just a dedicated sort of half hour or so to get that heel popped in. Then I can go back to my helical striping for the foot, and these ones will definitely go into the donation basket as well. They might not get sent off in this package because I really want to get those sent off soon. But these might be the first pair of socks that go into next year's donation pile. Who knows? And I just want to share with you my lovely project bag. So this was recently gifted to me by Jan, who is one of our lovely community members. I've put my lovely socks on board badge onto my project bag. This has become my unofficial scrappy sock project bag. So Jan sent this to me a couple of months ago, just as I was about to cast on a new pair of scrappy socks. I think it was actually when I was about to cast on the dispersion. So as soon as those were finished, I just loaded it up with some more scrap yarn. So yeah, this has become my unofficial scrap make-along project bag. That is everything that I've been working on. I think this should be a fairly short video. Who knows? Editing Ant will figure it all out. But I am going to share, just as I did in the first update video like this, a little slideshow now of some of the lovely finished objects that have been made by our wonderful community members. I haven't been able to share every project because there are quite a lot, but I have tried, and hopefully I've managed it, fingers crossed, to put in at least one project from everyone who has finished something so far. There's been lots of people who finished multiple projects, and a couple of people who, shock, horror, gasp, have said that they've actually finished their leftovers basket is empty. So I am slightly jealous and in awe of those folks who have managed to empty their scrap basket. That's definitely not me. If anything, I've been generating more scraps, but that's just the beautiful thing about knitting, isn't it? So yes, anyway, I have tried, I hope, to include at least one project from everyone who has finished something in the last few months. But that's everything from me for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you have been joining in our scrap make along this year, what you have been working on or what you have finished recently. Are you thinking about joining in next year now that you know that we're going to make it a year-long make along next year? And if you are, do you have any favourite types of projects or patterns that you use for your scraps and leftovers. I'd love to hear all of your comments and suggestions, so yeah, please let me know below. I will be back again soon with some more making content, so I hope you will join me for the next video. Until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all, and I hope you enjoy the little slideshow with all of the wonderful projects that our community members have been making. Bye for now.